Check it out. So yes, we got a brand new interview with the creative director of Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, where he spills the beans about what's happening with the new operations. You know, a lot of people are wondering, hey, are we going to be seeing operations outside of the current story? What about traveling to brand new planets like a snowy planet? And we got to talk about the new enemy, which is apparently very deadly. Some really cool descriptions about this one. And what about more story content? What's happening there? Also, yes, talks briefly about what he would like to see from new classes and gives us an idea of what they're looking at there as well. And what about the Mark 8 helmet and other customization coming to the game? Plus, some responses about the mod scene. You guys know that modding is a part of this game, which is really surprising, but is it even allowed? So we got kind of an answer there about that. And yes, a very hot take about what was said recently in the dev blog. We'll dive into that. And as always, your top comments. And real quick, this is pretty important. They just released this today. Space Marine 2 servers will undergo a maintenance at 9 a.m. UTC. Now, this update should take up to an hour and aims at fixing matchmaking and save issues. Disconnects can be experienced. So yes, it has begun. They're trying to address some of the biggest issues that you guys are facing, at least with the matchmaking. Let me know how it goes today. I'm extremely curious to see if there's any improvements. But if you have been holding off with, logging in because you've had issues, probably time to check it out and see how it's working. But yeah, post a comment below and let me know how it's running. But I say we start out with what was said in this brand new interview, which, by the way, was done by Well Played. Sources in the description below. But let's dive into some of these details. It is about, I think it's like a 30-minute video, but I'm going to go ahead and narrow this down to the most important bits here. So yes, the new enemy type that's coming up most immediately. What's going on there? So it was said that this new enemy is something that is not trivial whatsoever. It's not just another new enemy that's thrown together or given a gun or something like that. In fact, this new enemy will challenge you and it will require new strategies to take on. So that sounds really cool. Now, he wouldn't answer if this was a Minoris, Majoris, or Extremis enemy, but he did tease that you will absolutely have to adjust your playstyle to face this enemy. This enemy, again, is not going to be a pushover whatsoever. So that's really, really cool to hear. It sounds like it's going to change the dynamic of playing through operations, which is really, really nice. You keep it kind of fresh as well. Now, new operation details. Let's talk about it. So new operation missions will address what people have been asking with what happened with the rest of Tyranids on Avarax. So yeah, that is very interesting. That's all the tease we got related to like kind of story related stuff with new operations. Now, he was also asked if the new operations would lead us to stories that aren't parallel to the main story. And what about new planets like a snow planet? Now, he did go on to say that that would require a lot of new assets and resources. But right now, they do have a lot of assets created for the current existing planets. And it sounds like they'll keep the tile set in line with what we currently know, which of course is fine. And it sounds like to me they plan to kind of keep going with the parallel type of storytelling that they have been doing currently. And then what about more story content? This is where it does get interesting. He says that Titus has resolved one chapter of his life by the end of Space Marine 2. And it is suggested that a new chapter is opening up at the end of the game, of course. And it is suggested that this next chapter could be very, very dark, perhaps even darker than what we experienced in Space Marine 1. He teases the story is definitely not over, and that's all he said about that. But the story is definitely not over. So yeah, expect something that is very dark and deadly. But yeah, what about new classes? So he says to refer to World War Z. They did add classes there, so he's saying that's a very big possibility of adding a new class will be happening, of course, in Space Marine 2. But it's got to be really, really good. They want to take their time here. They're going for quality over quantity. They must consider a lot with this as well, balancing, fitting the class into the current mold of the other classes, synergies, that sort of thing. He did say they are interested in a chaplain and a librarian, perhaps, but all of this is going to be pretty tricky. And yeah, there's a lot of different options that they are currently looking into. You guys also know that the apothecary would be very, very cool. That was marked as something they are interested in on the ideas section of the Focus Entertainment website. So it seems like it's a juggle between those three. Currently, let me know which one you guys would like to see. But what about the Mark 8 helmet? So he was asked why it didn't make it into the game. So he did go on to say that was a mix of like game development economics and licensing with Games Workshop and abiding by rules there. Now, he did confirm that he says he would never blame Games Workshop for limitations, but if fans do want it, ask for it enough on the Focus website, they have more of a case to take to Games Workshop, and that makes it much easier for them to actually work it into the game. So at least there's that. And it seems like you guys are going to be the ultimate deciding factor in if they are going to be adding features into this game or not. If you're vocal enough, sounds like it could absolutely happen. All right, so yeah, there were some questions here out on Twitter about, you guessed it, modding, because a lot of people are concerned, hey, Robbie, are we going to be getting banned if we mod the game at all? So we kind of have an answer here. Check it out. It says, greetings, Oliver. What's your stance on mods? For FOV mods, Operator Arsenal Unlock, no class limits, campaign ops, play campaign missions and operations, and other things like that. So here's the response. All I can say is this: mods are a part of gaming. Some games are more easily modded than others. We're always against cheating, of course, but people like to be creative, and that's part of life. Hope that reads well enough. In other words, what I'm seeing here is if you're going to be installing mods that alter the gameplay and essentially give you an advantage there, be careful. That's going to be considered cheating, of course, but if it's going to be something that's more surface level, it's not going to affect other players or give you a boost, so to speak, then you should be pretty safe. That's what I gather from this. But as always, do your homework. Be very mindful of what mods you have, especially when heading into any multiplayer, PvE or PvP. You need to be extremely cautious if you are going to be actually affecting other players in any way, shape, or form. All right, so let's head on over to what's going on here. It says, honestly, this is the hottest take in my opinion. And he highlights a little snippet here from the recent blog post. It says, you asked to pick the Chaos Space Marines legions you want for every classes. And the answer was there are many lore restrictions preventing us from doing this. For instance, we cannot make a sniper with the World Eater armor. It is very tricky to match armor pieces for Chaos. Armor pieces have different sizes and styles with that will clip through each other, etc. Also in PvP, it is important to be able to recognize an enemy's class, and we want to keep the visual identity of each of them. Now, we will not keep it as it is and would like to expand Chaos customization, but the reality is they won't be as modular as the Loyalist. Now, this guy says this right here. This makes zero sense to me. I do a lot of PvP, and I'm also in the quality field, and honestly, this seems like just an excuse. Loyalist Astartes can make themselves look however they want. You can make a Vanguard and Sniper look very close to normal Astartes. Hell, you can even put Chaos emblems on your Paldrons, but no, Heretics must look like a specific thing. There are absolutely zero Assault Chaos Marines except Night Lords and Vanguards. 100% only World Eaters. No one else would dare use a grappling hook. Heavy Gunner, a Death Guard, would never have a heavy gun in his hand, or just a normal Chaos Astartes. Could you imagine a normal Chaos Astartes being anything other than wearing Black Legion armor in whatever color they like? Please tell me I'm not the only one thinking this is an excuse to not do Chaos armor. This got 1,000 upvotes, a lot of attention. And check this out. It says, from what I've been reading, Games Workshop has some really redundant rules and makes a lot of arbitrary decisions with lore and accuracy. It's probably safe to assume they're given the no when seeking approval for a lot of these kinds of things. So, you know, when it comes down to it, seems like a lot of you guys just want the fun factor. And yeah, you know, you are, of course, still concerned about lore, but there are certain situations where you're like, hey, let loose. Let us have more freedom with the customization, especially when it comes to Chaos customization. It is underwhelming currently. Let me know what side of the fence you're sitting on, if you're more for protect the lore, protect the rules, or if you're like, hey, open it up more. Come on now, this is ridiculous. All right, so we also have this one right here. Enemies need to drop XP. Operations rewards suck. Getting into operations, and wow, am I working my ass off for almost nothing. These missions on harder difficulties take upwards of 45 minutes to an hour, and you're fighting swarms of enemies that'll kill you pretty damn easily. Not to mention that if you all get downed at any given moment, the mission is over. Shitty when you've got a trio, but heartbreaking when you're solo because it instantly ends your game instead of letting you respawn. And because of majority of the XP is rewarded at the end of the mission, even if you do claw your way through the hardest difficulty, you're still getting almost nothing for the 1 hour you've spent leading up to the finale if you fell on the last step. And something I've noticed the more missions I do is that I ask myself, why should I even bother fighting at all where it isn't required to move forward? It drains all of your resources. You don't get more XP for it. No items, no nothing. People are opting to just beeline through the missions and get to the end to level up, and that's horrible for the game's life cycle. They need to start incentivizing people into actually fighting the hordes, because as much as I like this game, I do not like how I'm more constantly telling myself I should avoid fights rather than take them. Make enemies drop XP. And we actually have an interesting quote here. Some of you might not realize this, but they are going to be making adjustments to the XP system. So it says this right here. It was observed that players tend to show toxic behaviors as they get kicked late during a game made by a group of friends to let their friends get the XP. And it says, we understand this is unfair and each player will receive XP based on its actual involvement in the mission. So they are doing some adjustments to the XP, but it seems like they need to do even further fine-tuning with this. I totally agree. And I love the idea of incentivizing players to really engage with the hordes instead of skip over that sort of thing, to have rewards based on, you know, kind of like how many kills you're doing, perhaps even chaining kills together and multiplying your XP in that way. There's a lot of cool stuff they could do regarding XP in the future and fine-tune that system to make it far, far more rewarding in combat. I mean, they could even have XP boosts for performing counters correctly. You know what I mean? That sort of thing would be very, very cool. All right, so yes. Now it's time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up in a future video. As always, I love reading over your comments. And you guys had quite a few things to say in my most recent video. So let me pull that up right now. So here we go. Let's see what you guys had to say. It says this. If Gilmon takes my melta-gun, I will use my pistol. Now, if Gilmon takes away my pistol, I will use my sword. If Gilmon takes away my sword, I will use my fist. If Gilmon takes away my fist, I will use my head. If Gilmon takes away my head, I will have died in the name of the Emperor. Freaking love it. Now, I gotta see some of the replies here. In Space Marine 2, if they take away your melta, you don't have the rest of those things already. All right, so let's keep going. It says all they need to do is reduce the tankiness of enemies and just add more on higher difficulties. The enemies' health should cap at a certain difficulty, then they just add more. Definitely agree with that one. Let's do a lot of you guys, and we have this one. I think what makes the game difficulty is Zagar's shield, Tyranid Minora's gun damage, Stem's healing too little. If they just fix these issues, I think the game will feel way more better immediately. Yes. You know, I do like the, I guess you would say, gameplay mechanics when it comes to having to dodge some of the guns. Keeps you on your toes, but I agree that once you get hit, oof, it's just a bit much. Also, we have this. If the melta is overheating and it's not working as intended, then guess what? It's not a nerf. I couldn't agree more. It's just that I have a feeling that when they do finally fix this, what they're saying is a bug for the melta, yeah, it's gonna ruffle some feathers. I just know that's what's gonna happen at the end of the day. So I'm kind of curious to see how the dev team will respond to that, if they are, or if they're just gonna leave it as is, because I have a feeling it's gonna get around to, oh god, this is a nerf. What did you do to my melta, you know? So yeah. All right, anyway, it says, I just want my armor to not feel like it's made of cardboard. Yeah, totally here on that one. Dealing damage should stop the decay of contested health as long as you continue to cause damage. 100%. I think that right there is really a bigger issue than anything else when it comes to what's happening with the health system in the game. And that's what's making you feel very, very weak currently. Let's do another one here. It says, I think something needs to be done about the enemies hitting you while you are staggered. Getting chain hit for 90% of my HP doesn't feel good. Again, you guys know my history with like being stunned and staggered. I can't freaking stand that in games. If it's overdone, it can really ruin the flow of the gameplay. So I think they need to fine-tune that a bit more. All right, so there it is. Delays happenings once again around Space Marine 2. Stay tuned here for more news and updates. I have you guys covered on this one as always. I'm really enjoying the hell out of it still. I'm also really loving the community. It's so different compared to the many other gaming communities that I've engaged with. So it's been a lot of fun so far covering this game. It isn't perfect, and it's great to see, by the way, that we have a dev team that is really focused up on replying to us, and I love that. I love that level of transparency and communication. It gives me a lot of hope for this one. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.